Hi, friend.
Hello, hello.
Um, so a quick intro for anybody who's listening or watching what we're doing here today. My friend Dani and I decided to get together. We're both coaches, and we decided to get together and show the world what a coaching conversation can look like. And so wanted to kind of share some like disclaimers around that before we get going. So first, we are friends and not, Donnie's not my coach, I'm not Donnie's coach, but we do sometimes in a peer container put our coach's hat on and support each other kind of in that way through whatever we're working through. Because one of the most important things is coaching being a confidential space. And so normally we wouldn't share what's happening in a coaching conversation with other people. Um, but so we both are coaches and we know what we're getting ourselves into as we're having this conversation. And we're recording, but we might at the end decide that we're not going to share this with the world for whatever reason so that we can really fully show up here. And that will be okay. And in fact, we've already recorded one and decided not to share it. And so
Yeah.
um, we'll see where this goes. But yeah, the intention is really, we talk both a lot about what is coaching, what isn't it, and trying to communicate and explain to folks. But we thought it might be interesting just to show what it can look like. And again, understanding this is one conversation, there's many different ways to coach and to be. Um, yeah, is there anything I'm missing? Anything you would want to add?
I think the only thing to add is that because of what you mentioned earlier, we're both coaches. So that means that also that conversation is likely going to look slightly different than if I was someone that is completely new to coaching and has no idea how it works, etc. So that means that we can dive right in. We both know what it's all about, what we're doing. Um, yeah, so
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
that's a good point. Yeah, thank you for adding that. Okay, so today what we plan to do is I will be in the coach's role and you decided to be in the coachee's role. And you already shared with me that you have
Mm.
a few topics um, that, you've considered bringing. Have you had a chance to think through it and do
Yeah,
you have something you'd like to bring today?
I do. Yes, I do have a topic in mind.
Okay, tell me about it.
So it actually links to the last session that we've recorded, which we haven't shared. So anyway, um, where I notice more and more so that when I coach people, I either have this utmost confidence and things flow. I mean, they don't always flow. There's always nuances to this, right? But generally, I have confidence in who I am as a coach, what I bring to the table. Um, that confidence, I guess, and believe in my ability sometimes just does it go away completely? It doesn't go away completely, but it seems like there's glitches in the system where depending on who I am talking to, I start thinking, oh, who am I? Who am I to do this? Who am I to create this space for them? Who am I to believe that I can somehow support this person? And I'm probably not good at it. And so that then affects my coaching, like how I show up, and obviously my internal narrative, and then also the way I can coach, as in it directly affects my coaching skill. And I noticed that that could be because there's some sort of outside pressure. So either something is being recorded and I feel like I'm sort of in the spotlight doing this, or it also has shown up with, I remember my first ever paying client. That took me quite a few sessions to overcome that because I thought, what they're paying me, why are they giving me money for this? And I'm not good enough. I think that's a bit of a yeah, that sort of belief shows up. I'm not good enough. And then, yeah, ultimately that sort of hampers my ability, and it's annoying me. And so I just wanted to explore that and see if there's any sort of ways that I can help myself through that, because I have great moments and great spells, and then I have some where I'm just a bit flawed.
Mhm. Would it be helpful for me to share back what I'm hearing of
Yes, please.
what you've said?
Yeah.
So you said that as part of your coaching, sometimes you feel confident and things flow for the most part. And then there's sometimes a glitch in the system. You're not saying it doesn't necessarily go completely away, but there are some different factors. And you mentioned who it is, like who is with you in the room, outside pressures, like is it a paying client or are we recording a session that can just kind of cause that glitch in the system where you are then having that internal narrative show up of, you said a few different things, but including I'm not good enough. Who am I to believe that I can do this and actually support this person? And then you shared that the impact really is that it impacts your ability and your skill to show up as a coach in the sessions. And you mentioned it's annoying you. So like I'm already tagging, feelings. We could explore feelings, for example, when you say, it's annoying you. Does that track with
Yes,
kind of
it
where you're
does.
at?
Yeah, accurate.
And then you said you wanted to explore it today and look at some ways that you can help yourself through it. Let's explore this a little bit more. Like what would you like the outcome of our time together be?
I think there's probably more exploration to do as to what exactly is causing me this. So, for example, a thing that just came up when you repeated and summarized back to me was that I tend to have it when I work with clients that are like seasoned professionals. So entrepreneurs that have built like, big companies, they're successful. They have been in the business world for a while. Like well, I assume they know what they're doing. They're like a proper professional, whatever that means. As I'm saying this out loud, that's another one to explore. But and then I feel inferior because what I'm doing, I've only just started. I mean, 2 years, right? And I know that on paper, like what they're doing and what I do has nothing to do with them. And I'm still the expert in the room, mostly. Some of them might be coaches or have done some sort of educational process there too. But mostly people come to me because they need a coach and they don't actually necessarily know what exactly it is when they start with me, or they're not a trained professional in that sense. So that was a bit of a tangent, but essentially looking at what are the factors that are influencing this sort of, that are triggering for me. And once I know those, the triggers, it's like maybe some strategies to some strategies to sort of for lack of better wording, this sounds a bit weird, but influence myself to then be able to, when I know I have a session like this coming up, to prep myself in a way that will quieten that noise so I can better be present in the moment and do my thing and not feel like I have to perform in a certain way, like having to have some sort of, I don't know, a certain huge realization or outcome from the get-go, from the first session, because that's when I then start rushing or start skipping things, or maybe not interrupt them when I kind of want to, contracting, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you're thinking, we explore kind of what are the triggers, or like what are the causes that are influencing it, and you already mentioned some, and then thinking about some strategies, how you can support yourself, or as you say, influence yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I asked this question too, what does support from me look like today?
Mm-hmm. I think support will look like kind of what you're already doing. So kind of being my mirror,
Mm-hmm.
calling out if there's any sort of contradictions.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess like a certain level of challenge, not even a certain level, just challenge if you see like something doesn't quite add up. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, so being a mirror, noticing contradictions, and challenge. I'm going to try this out right away, and I'd love to share two more things that I noticed, like words that you shared that didn't show up in the yeah, what you would want the outcome to be. One, I kind of already mentioned earlier, emotions. You mentioned a few different, from being annoyed to feeling inferior. So I wonder if exploring emotions around it might be another piece to add. And then I think you also said the word believe, or that voice in your head, you know, and that's not a new one. But I wonder if there's something too about checking in with that voice that says,
Yeah.
who are you to think that you can be doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think actually that's probably a really helpful thing to do, especially because I feel like it's, for a while it was quietening down, and I feel recently it's gotten louder again, for don't know for what reason. But there's something there, and there's definitely some sort of belief behind it. So that I'm a, mm, I'm a bit confused as to like what to start with. I think believe, like that might be a good point to start with, but so might be emotions. I kind of do, I think it's linked, but yeah, I agree that I think that goes hand in hand with what I said, and that is probably really important. Those are really important points to explore when talking about that topic. Yeah. Also, I don't really know how relevant this is, but again, talking out loud, I noticed that I've sort of, I think I struggled, not in every single aspect of my life, but in certain aspects of my life, I always struggled with that sort of pressure-induced, I don't know if it's anxiety or nervousness that then impacts my performance for something. So I was a gymnast when I was a kid, and I'd always be great. And then I'd go to competition and I really suck
Mm-hmm.
because I'd get so in my own head that I was that I got so unsure and I would like fall off everything and just mess all of the things up. That's just an example, but yeah, I feel like it's kind of like a historic thing that has happened to me in different aspects of my life, and it's now rearing its head again.
Okay, so I feel like we have, like a few different avenues where we could start. And yeah, it's funny you say I don't even know where to start, and because that was going to be my next question. Where would you like to start?
I do in I feel like the first thing that comes into my mind when you ask that questions, and that has come into my mind when you were talking earlier, was the belief. Like what's actually behind that, and dig a little bit deeper into that. So maybe let's go with that. That's like a
Okay.
a gut feeling.
Okay. Part of me wants to grab my beliefs worksheet with all of the great questions about it, but it doesn't need to be so structured. But really, when we look at beliefs, we can look at, and you know this, but I'm just reminding both of us, right, that for any situation, for ourselves, the world, or what, we have helpful and unhelpful beliefs. Helpful ones that support us to where we want to go, and then unhelpful ones that can get in the way sometimes. So I'm wondering if it's helpful to kind of really explore those two sides and look at what are some of your unhelpful ones or limiting beliefs and some helpful ones.
Yeah, I think limiting will be good. Specifically what's coming up for me in those sort of situations, and then see where that takes us. I guess what does or what might help is also, yes, then looking at, are there any positive beliefs I have about myself that are direct, what's the word, opposites maybe, that I can somehow, because that sometimes helps me when I know, when I have evidence against something, to kind of just draw that line and remind myself of it.
Okay, then let's start with the limiting ones.
Yeah.
The ones that aren't helpful.
So the ones that aren't helpful, well, the biggest one is I'm not good enough. So I'm not good enough to hold this space and to coach this person, or like this certain person that is in front of me. Then what else is showing up? There's also that sort of almost like a rushed feeling of, I need to I'm just going to say it out loud. I don't know if this is a belief, but it's kind of like, if I don't impress right away with some sort of, I don't know, magic coaching thing that I do, and get them to have some sort of wow realization, or action plan or just feel like they had a really great conversation, then they it's almost a bit embarrassing for me to say, but then they won't like me. So it's
Mm-hmm.
something about being liked as well, I think. Plus obviously reputation as a coach. Like, and that then links back again to being not good enough. Um and then when talking about sort of impressing someone, it's like that other weird belief that like I think I need to impress someone with how great of a coach I am right away, like instantly. Otherwise, I don't even know. I don't even know where this is going, but there seems to be that sort of pressure of like you gotta you gotta make a certain impression to then be able to be successful. And one that pops up here and there is I'm not, and again, I don't saying it out loud, I don't even know exactly what it means. It's like I'm not professional enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are sort of the main ones that are coming up to me at this instant. Um, and I won't be able to make a difference for them.
Mm-hmm. Writing them down too, so I have them in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just want to acknowledge for a moment that it's hard to dig into those limiting or unhelpful beliefs because, like, those don't always feel great when we say them out loud. Um,
Yeah, no, they don't. They don't.
um, I'm wondering if you want to explore that for a moment, what it feels like to be saying some of those things.
It feels really vulnerable. So on the one hand side, it kind of feels good to say it out loud. And I know vulnerability is brave, I guess, but it also feels really, I guess, a bit embarrassing or a bit shameful to say that out loud. Also because I don't want to have those doubts about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess there's it's kind of like there's one thing about saying it out loud in front of you and potentially some other people,
Mm-hmm.
but also saying it out loud and admitting it to myself
Mm-hmm.
because there's sort of that judgy bit coming up where, to be fair, it's not like super loud, but it sort of comes in here and there, where it's like, why are you still dealing with this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Why have you not gotten stronger here?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so in terms of feelings, it's like probably a bit of shame, embarrassment, um, in a way, a relief to admit it to myself that there's some work to do still.
Mm-hmm.
And like as a positive, hope,
Mm-hmm.
because I do know that I can work on things if I just put my
Mm-hmm.
mind to it, and that, you know, there's growth potential and there will be progress if I put energy into it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for naming all of that. That was a broad list of different emotions that you named, from vulnerable, brave, embarrassing, shame, but also relief and hope. That's a big picture. And then it was interesting to notice you then actually started to name already, in the context of hope, I know I can work on things and I know there will be progress if I put the energy into it. So you shifted yourself into a helpful or empowering belief right away, actually.
Yeah, I did. And this is the thing. I know that I think maybe I'm going through phases. I don't know, but I really trained myself in a sense that when I am in a bit of a negative spiral, I've trained myself to look for evidence against whatever is happening in my head
Mm-hmm.
and talk to myself in a way that's like, you know, you've got this though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can work through this. Which again, saying it out loud now already feels much better.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about the topic at hand, it doesn't feel so annoying anymore, and it doesn't feel so heavy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess maybe there's a bit around it where I can figure out how to help myself making those voices stronger again
Mm-hmm.
and having them almost, I don't know if it's realistic to say something like having them on tap, like having them always there, because again, like life is nuanced, our brains are nuanced, everything is like there's always going to be ups and downs, but just so it doesn't influence me that much, especially in situations like doing
Mm-hmm.
my job.
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I love to stick with the feelings words for a moment, because you said, as you're noticing this about yourself, like, oh yeah, this is what I do. I've trained myself to do this. I look for what's the evidence and what can I have against it, and yeah, kind of having that supportive, bringing that supportive voice forward. And you said that already feels less heavy and less annoying. And I wondered if there are, to phrase them in a positive way instead of not annoying and not heavy, if there are words
Oh,
you would use to
okay.
describe what that feels like, opposed to what it not feels like.
It feels lighter and empowering
Mm-hmm.
to say this about me.
Mm-hmm.
Also because I know that that's true. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot of doubt there. in terms of me knowing that about me saying that I have trained myself. Like I know that that is what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there's a blip. That's just truth, and that feels good to say that because I like to doubt myself.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't like to doubt myself, but that is my default.
But
So yeah.
um, okay, part of me wants to just follow the list and say, what other empowering beliefs do you have?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also drawn into the word. Earlier you said there's a glitch sometimes. Now you said there's a blip. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'm curious about that. So I wonder if that sparks ideas or thoughts for you.
Yeah, I guess I really consciously use those words because if I would say that there's long spells of this,
Mm-hmm.
negative voice, if we keep it that sort of general, then that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
I can sort of pull myself back most of the time. And that's why I call them sort of the weird little interceptions that
Mm-hmm.
derail me for a while and then I kind of come back again. Is that true? Yeah. And they can derail a whole session. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe not the next one, but they can derail a whole session. Where then I all of a sudden I'm not brave anymore. Like I don't do the things that I would usually do. And that's not to say I'm a lazy coach, but it's more like a fear of making not performing or not seeming to be a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
It all
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make sense when I say it out loud, but and I think when I think about those glitches and blips, like it's almost like a bit of a when you watch TV and there's a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
like the picture goes, and it comes back again. And maybe it's about figuring out when that sort of blip comes in, what are the things that I can do to just get the picture back?
Mm-hmm. And if we were to stick with that metaphor, sometimes, like when you said it can derail a whole session, it also happens that sometimes it's just a little blip and just comes back on. But, sometimes it's like where the audio and the video doesn't connect and there's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit delay. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you actually have to turn off, well, I've had to do that sometimes, actually turn off the TV and restart and kind of get
Yeah,
that break to get it back
that's
in
true.
sync.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Turn it off. Have you tried turning it off? That's the first question that you ask one.
exactly. Yeah, we hit the power button.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and maybe there's something there in turning it off. I don't really know what that could look like, but I like the idea of that or the thought of that. So thank you for that. Because it's sort of then resetting, just being like,
mhm,
okay, like just shut it all down
mhm,
and boot it back up again, start from scratch.
mhm. Um, okay, I'm looking at all of the different pieces and kind of what we have
Mhm.
explored here. I'm looking at time too. Um, I'm going to recap us a little bit. so we can then see where we want to go next. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
So I have like the list in front of me here. Limiting beliefs, empowering beliefs. Some of the ones around, I'm not good enough. I need to impress people. Otherwise, they won't like me. I need to impress them instantly. I'm not professional enough. And on the flip side, where you flip quickly to say, but I know I can work on things. And I know that to be true. And you like took a moment to really dig in to say, yeah, like that feels empowering because that is a truth I have about me, is that I can come back from these things. There isn't a lot of doubt there. Like I know that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, we explored a bit of that pulling yourself back and the blip and how yeah, maybe it's about finding ways that you can notice it quicker or come back from it and really let that blip just be a quick glitch. Find a reset button or a way to reset so that it doesn't derail a whole session. So that's kind of where we are now. Oh yeah, go ahead if there.
Yeah, just when you were talking about the blip again and the reset button. So what I have developed is like what I started using here and there, and that came following a supervision session actually. Was a sort of, it was like more of a, what do you call that? Like a sensory way of dealing with maybe not exactly those beliefs, but like some other stuff that was going on for me before, and that was just shake it off. So I'm just like, sometimes I sit at a coaching session and I just wiggle my feet and shake it off under the table. I obviously don't do this.
Yeah.
That would make for some interesting conversation, I think. But I wonder if there's something about resetting or turning it off that I could do.
Do you notice it quickly when it happens? Like, are you aware of it?
Yeah.
And that's huge, by the way. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's like the number one requirement. You can't reset if you don't see that it's glitching. But that awareness, and I know you have this too because we've talked about this before, of having, putting your own thoughts in the background, but also being aware of what is happening. And so that awareness that it is happening, like that's fantastic that that's already there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. And I know when it's present and it feels uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable. I don't know how I sometimes sit through sessions like that, to be honest, reflecting on it. I'd love if I could just say a rewind, let's start again. That might not go down well, depending on who I'm talking to and where we are in the session. But maybe it's literally just about trying to, I know this is very old school, but trying to turn something off, turn it off, deep breath, and start again. Close my eyes for a couple of seconds. I think I could probably get away with that. Just make it look like I'm thinking, which I am.
What else would it feel like body-wise? Because you said both that, oh, it feels uncomfortable. And then, the way you're describing, you sometimes shake it off before the session, or you just wiggle your feet and do it under the table. What in terms of physical movement would you want to experiment with? You already said deep breath and maybe closing your eyes for a couple of seconds. What else is there in terms of using your body?
Maybe it's almost something like silly, like taking my mouse, and because no one can usually see it, and like turning it off, as in pressing like a remote, turning it off, you know? That could be quite fun.
I love the creativity. Yeah, have the button ready to go.
Because it's something that I don't feel like I need to hide too much. I can just do that, and it doesn't feel too weird.
I would want to know
Yeah.
if you weren't on video, or if it was just
Oh yeah.
you, like what does your, yeah, that's actually the question I really want to know. Like, what does your body need or want in that moment if you weren't worried about, which makes sense to be concerned about, you know, communicating that, and we can talk about that separately. But I'm curious what your body actually wants or needs in that moment.
It kind of goes into the direction of like shaking it off again, like just like rid myself of whatever this is that has taken a hold of me. Um, yeah, that's kind of the first thing that comes up in terms of what my body feels like it needs. And that could also be maybe just changing position, like consciously, I don't know, shift around and change my angle a little bit or something like that. Yeah, just to sort of go along with that notion of restart. Because ideally, what my body would really want, I think, is to get up, maybe walk around the table once or something like that, you know, and then sit down again. But again, that's not necessarily something that will work when you're having a conversation with someone. So in that sense, I'm gonna have to tone it down a bit and think of something that's more practical.
Can I add something?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if what you're saying is true, that you can't also get up and walk. And it might depend on the client, and it might depend on the communication, and it might depend on how you're phrasing it and what you're saying. But I wonder if that can be explored even more. Like I can imagine, for example, let's say it was you and I, where like what if that is actually what both of you need, because it's not just because it is a relationship. And so what if it's actually helpful for both to say, oh, I'm feeling something here, whatever how you want to phrase it. Can we both just move up for a moment and just like move our bodies and come back? And that might not always work, but I really love to plant the seed that maybe you don't have to assume that that wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, I do agree with you. As I was saying it, I was thinking, is there is there a way that you could do something like that? Either by actually being straight up and saying, ugh, I feel like I need to get up for a moment, or even involving them, although that feels a bit more like a stretch for me
Mm-hmm.
at the
Mm-hmm.
moment. Um, but doing it myself, it does feel very weird and very out there to do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little bit scary maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately, in a sense, that also just feels like it could open the door to even a more deeper and open relationship with that person that is opposite me,
Mm-hmm.
because they then feel like they can do that too, because they
Mm-hmm.
might feel like they don't want to be restricted to a
Mm-hmm.
chair or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
We could follow all of these threads
Yeah.
and keep talking about all of these bits and pieces, including some of the things that we talked about in the beginning from your voice that comes in. We haven't even talked about what is causing it, who are the people, what about the pressure. There's so many other avenues we
Hmm.
could have gone down to today. Um,
Yeah.
but it is time for us to bring this to a close. And so you had said in the beginning you wanted to explore ways that you can support yourself here and um, or explore like what's happening and then find some strategies that you can support yourself or prepare yourself. Um, so with some of the things that we explored now, that sensory element of shaking it off under the table or pressing your mouse to like have that reset power button, even just changing your positions,
Hmm.
potentially getting up and finding a way to communicate and say that. Um, what's something that you want to try next time this happens?
I think I definitely want to try the mouse thing, and the sort of together with like close my eyes, like as in not just the normal
Mm-hmm.
blinking, but close my eyes, pretend my mouth is in fact a remote control.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because like shaking it off, that's already in my repertoire. So I'm
Yeah.
already using that quite a lot, but I think I need something new or something
Mm-hmm.
different to that, especially when it comes to those sort of, because they're quite strong feelings when they come up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think when I feel really overwhelmed, because I have had sessions where I can bring it back again, but if I feel like this is going down a route that I don't like and that I'm uncomfortable in, I might stretch myself to figure out if I can just get up.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, not just get up, but
Mm-hmm.
come up with something on the spot. I need to stretch my legs, or I feel like something is going on. I just need to get up for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be. I think that's the sort of, I'm still a bit scared of that, but that's probably the last resort. If
Mm-hmm.
the turning it off and all of that doesn't help, um, and the shifting positions. And I think it's all about, because I am very aware of them, is maybe linked with a bit of, and it sounds really cheesy things out loud, but linking those sort of sensory things just with encouragement to just be brave.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've got this, and start again.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels good. That feels like something that I can do.
Mm-hmm. Is this a good point then to wrap this part up, or is there anything else that you feel like you need in order to make that successful and to try that out?
No, I think that's something that I can sort of close out like this. And I know that in my next session with a person that I know, might be bringing that out, not the person, but the situation.
Mm-hmm.
My thoughts about the situation, then I can, yeah, I think I'm sort of up for experimenting, and I will definitely do that
Mm-hmm.
because I have been trying to challenge myself here and there recently, especially with things that I know are hard for me for some reason and doing it anyways. It's all about sort of looking that fear in the face and being like, what's the worst that can happen?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said the word brave a few times. Yeah,
Mm.
which is what that is. Okay.
So yeah, so this
Yeah,
is good. Thank you.
good,
Thank you so much.
good. Yeah. Do you want to take a moment, if you have some extra time, do you want to take a moment to reflect on
Sure.
kind of how this went and what was helpful and maybe wasn't? Um,
Yeah. I think the first thing that instantly comes to mind is that, and it's, yeah, I'm going to say it out loud and then
mhm,
um, I'm trying to say everything all at once and that never works. So what you did was you always gave me an option. Like you always included me in where this conversation goes, like very, very clearly and very
mhm,
consciously. And whilst that was really challenging,
mhm,
because, and I know this from feedback from clients as well,
mhm.
sometimes they're like, no, but I don't want to make that decision. Like, I just want to just ask me some questions. Let's go into whatever direction you feel is good.
Yeah.
So I did feel that. I felt
Mhm.
like, oh no, Hannah, I don't want to, I don't know.
Yeah.
But in the end, it felt like that actually enabled me to really listen to what my brain or my gut said and just
Mhm,
go with that and see where it takes us rather than figuring out strategically what is the best way to go in, like what makes the most sense. It was more like, actually, if I think about it, this comes to mind first. Let's go with that.
mhm,
And you enabled that by always very clearly um, outlining the different options and reflecting back to me about what I said. And there's so many avenues that we can go down, X, Y, and Z. So I was always very clear
mhm.
on on my options. That was incredible.
Um, I love that because this is exactly what I was going to comment on too. So I love that you're pulling out this piece because I tend to forget how challenging that is. And it is really challenging to be in the coachee's spot and
Mm-hmm.
being constantly asked, well, where do you want to start? What do you want to do? Which way? But that is about the co-creation, right? And there was a point very early on where you also said, I don't even know where to start. And part of me wanted to just kind of throw that in and like almost rescue you from that and say, I don't actually think it matters where we start.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that's true. Like sometimes
Yep.
they're all just entry points, right? We could have started with emotions, we could have started with beliefs or with what does it mean to be professional or, you know, pressure, like the idea of pressure. I would have loved to explore, you know,
Mm-hmm.
little child Dani of feeling pressure to perform and compete, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but yeah, so part of me is wondering, does it matter? These are all entry points. And also, yeah, I think it's interesting how it actually reflects exactly the topic that you were talking about because I started to feel a lot of responsibility around ooh, I need to make sure I cover all of these different bits and pieces. And you had said you wanted to talk about this and about your voice. And we had all of these things we wanted to talk about, and then we didn't get there. And so how am I going to manage this? But then coming back to, it's not my job to manage this for you. It's my job to create it together with you, and as a team decide where we want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ultimately and I can so relate to what you're saying, because I feel that a lot in my sessions as well. Especially because you're getting curious about, you were like, oh, I really wanted to explore the pressure bit. And what you said about, I just want to also acknowledge that, like, it doesn't necessarily really matter where you start. But what was incredible was that I was given the option to decide where to start. I would have probably loved exploring the whole pressure bit as well, but that felt natural. So I was in charge. And I think that's empowering and important in those kind of conversations. Because you didn't lead in any way or make a suggestion. It was, you created the space for me to walk the route that I wanted to walk in.
Yeah.
And then it ultimately didn't matter, like, all of the other things that I was saying, because it kind of just naturally flowed, and it got me to where I wanted to get to in the end, which was have a couple of strategies. I have a couple of things that I can do that will bring me back. And I think the feelings, exploring the feelings in the whole, when we were talking about the beliefs, that was really good as well. Like bringing those in, because ultimately they're intrinsically linked to our experience.
Yeah, again, like we're thinking alike, or maybe, well, we were just in the space together and had, the same experience, the same conversation, just from different sides. But yeah, the feelings piece was another one, because we could have really pulled out the feelings wheel and explored like feelings and relations to thoughts and like all those ways. But it was I actually enjoyed the bit about, and I don't always do this, because a lot of people aren't always comfortable with just sprinkling in the feelings and naming them and having that. But you immediately said, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this. Like, you named feelings as you were describing. And so it was then easy to just kind of have like a little add-on to whatever we were talking about, and be like, yep, what feelings are related to here, and yep, what feelings are related here. And kind of, weaving it in without having such a big emphasis on let's explore emotions, which, again, this is always interesting to see how a conversation could have gone differently if we had said, let's explore from this specific angle. Yeah. And the other thing,
sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm really reflecting on just how your outcome of having a button on the mouse to push and having something very like sensory with your body is not something that I would have thought of, or because that doesn't relate to me. And so I'm really thinking about how that just shows so much how important it was to be neutral about these things, and allowing you to see where it goes and what feels right to you, instead of suggesting things. Because I would have probably suggested like a phrase that you can say to yourself, and you said some of this in the end, like, I can be brave. But that to me is such a good reminder how important it is to really be completely open with regards to the outcome and what a strategy looks like. Like, who could have thought in the beginning that the strategy we would agree on, or you would come up with, is pushing a button on the mouse,
Yeah.
And that's so cool and so specific and so unique to you. And I think that just shows like this is gonna sound cheesy now too, but that is like, to me, part of the power of coaching, where it's not like I'm gonna Google strategies to support myself. Like you wouldn't find that,
Yeah.
anywhere to say just push a button on the mouse. Like you arrived at that through your own language and through exploring it together, from the glitch to the blip to a metaphor about the TV, and having that reset button.
And the glitch and the blip actually, because you fished that out from our conversations, because it was, I probably repeated it a few times. So that was really helpful too, because that made me think, yeah, there is something there, and maybe that can be explored more, and that landed us at the, got us to the metaphor. So that worked really well. And that's something that's very sort of, I think something that we learned quite early on in our coaching training, to pick up on the language, pick up on repetition, etc. And rightfully so, because it can be so powerful.
Yeah.
To bring that in.
Yeah.
What else are you reflecting on in terms of your experience of the session?
It was really like I think mostly the things that we've already explored or kind of just reflected on. It's a good reminder how good it is to really ask those questions often, about, we can go down this way or that way. Which way do you want to go? Because I do that a lot, but I don't do it consistently. And so it's good to hear that this is actually helpful, and it's helpful to take the time to see. And just how really noticing the parallel too between my own thoughts and having to put them to the side of what other ways, or the parts that I might want to say to you if we were having a different type of conversation, right? If this was oh, hey friend, can we just, this is annoying, can we look at it together?
Yeah.
I would have definitely said different things. So yeah. And I was a bit self-conscious sometimes about like some of those standard question of, well, what's your ideal outcome and how do I support you? Because like, I don't know, and I could see myself like it's a bit eye rolly, and I don't even know why, because it actually is, because those are actually helpful questions.
I feel exactly the same, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah. But those are foundations for a reason, and I don't always love what's the goal, what's the outcome, but it gives that direction, and it sets like that. Or the destination, I guess, because then exactly it allows us to then explore. Then it doesn't matter if what path, like I think it relates to the paths, because if the destination is clear, then it really doesn't matter if we're going at it, coming at it through emotions or beliefs or the voice in your head or pressure. As long as we have that kind of in mind. And so that actually gives me then, as in the role of the coach, the freedom to say, do you want to go this way or that way? I'm keeping it in mind where you want to go, as long as we, it takes that pressure off. Interestingly, what we're talking about.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay. Unless there are any final last words. Final last words. I think this is a good point to
wrap it up.
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this with me.